Well, hi, hello, how are you, everyone? Welcome to today's exciting episode of Flashback with Wes Britton, where you get to hear me and my co-host Karina Kansas interview stars, entertainment insiders, and entertainers from every variety from times past, present, and future. So kick back, enjoy this next hour, and thanks for stopping by.
Hello there, it's Loretta Swit here, and I hope you're enjoying Flashback.
Well, hello, everyone. Wes Britton here, and it's time for our next exciting episode of Flashback. And today is kind of our second episode in our M.A.S.H series. Talked with Jamie Farr yesterday, and by the way, Loretta, Jamie said to send you his love.
Oh, I always have his love, and he always has mine. I adore that man. Everybody adores that man. He's just the most wonderful everything. Father, friend, colleague, husband. He's just a great guy. And so much fun. So, yeah. My mom adored Jamie. She used to go around saying that he was her favorite character on M.A.S.H, and I would take her on the side and say, Mom, you could say, like, next to my daughter, he's my favorite. And she would laugh and say, no, he's my favorite.
Gee, thanks, Mom.
We would spend Christmas and sometimes New Year's at the Farrs because they're family. My mother just loved going there for Christmas.
I did not know that, so one more anecdote. Well, folks, we're going to start off today by me telling a story that I know Loretta doesn't remember. But it so happens, last October 17th, 2022, in Hunt Valley, Maryland, at the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Convention, it so happened that was the 50th anniversary of the debut of M.A.S.H. And that night, Loretta and Jamie and 100 of their closest strangers had dinner together. And that afternoon, I met Loretta briefly in the autograph line. We came through, and I left her a copy of my business card because I wanted to talk about this show. But Loretta beamed in on my wife's blouse. She wanted to know where she got it and all this stuff. And I just kind of stood there and laughed, and my wife wasn't quite sure what to say because she just bought that blouse at a discount store called Boss Clothes. It's probably just a local thing. I don't know if it reaches out to where Loretta lives or not.
Well, I'm sorry. We women, we know what we're doing. And, I'm sorry. You just weren't in on it. That's, what can I say?
Oh, I know it was funny as could be. She kept saying, Grace said a little bit later that she thought about trying to switch it with you, trade it to you for an autographed picture, and then it dawned on her, no, that won't work. Our sizes just ain't compatible, so...
And what makes you think I don't remember this?
Because you told me you didn't.
It was epic. Oh, my. I tell you, Jamie and I so love doing the autograph shows. People, like colleagues will say, how do you like doing them? How do I like sitting there being told by masses of people that they love me?
Well, goodness.
That they watched me all their lives, that they grew up with me, that there is this global M.A.S.H family out there in the world. How do I feel about that?
Oh.
What do you think I feel? What a way to live my life.
Yeah.
To have contributed something, been an influencer in some fashion. Some young girl out there becomes a nurse because of what she saw me do. How do you think that makes me feel? Well, it feels like I've done something with my life. I've contributed something to this planet.
And you're still at it in so many ways.
Plus, I'm still doing it.
We'll come back to that here in a little bit. But last time when we talked, folks, by the way, we tried to do this interview a week or so ago, and technology defeated us. We're doing some of this again. But I was asking Loretta about the work she did before M.A.S.H, and she mentioned having worked on Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, yes.
And she had some interesting stories to share about Jack Lord. Can you share them again?
What a wonderful person and a beautiful friend of mine. Jack was I wanted to tell those stories because it's not sort of known about him. That side of Jack is not known, and I wanted to make it known. He never, ever smoked on camera because he felt that was giving the wrong message to young people out there. Some young boy, he said, is going to think it's, really macho and tough. Look at McGarrett smoking because that's what makes him tough or whatever. He said it's nonsense, and I will not perpetuate that myth. And I refuse to smoke on camera doing any. So, and I thought, what a beautiful guy. Well, here's the deal. He was a smoker. I mean, off camera, Jack was a two-packer. And he had this big anniversary coming up one year. I think it was the 40th anniversary of his one-time ever forever wife, Marie. And he said to Marie, okay, that's it, honey. This is the biggie. This is a biggie coming up. You can have anything you want. You want a trip around the world. You want a Rolls Royce. Whatever. It's blank check. You name it. It's yours. And she looked at him and she said, I'd like you to give up smoking. And he said, whoa, wait a minute. I just offered you a lot of great stuff. You would opt to pass on that. And yes, she said, I don't want to outlive you, Jack. He was so touched. I mean, he said, I took the pack from my pocket, the used pack, and he said, I crunched it up, and I said, honey, if it means that much to you, it means that much to me. And he threw it away, and he never smoked again. And that's Jack. That was Jack's. He was strong and iron will. I mean, he was determined. He was committed, and he just quit. Poop. That's it. He threw them away, and that was it. It was a promise. It was an oath. It was a love token, and that was it. And that was her anniversary present.
Yeah, I can relate to that because when my first wife was in one of their hospital stays that year she was going down, they told us that she could not come home unless we quit smoking. Okay, I did that. I was
gotcha.
After all those years, me quit smoking. You've got to be kidding! But so my wife could come home. Yeah, I'll quit. Yeah.
and finish the story. What you did?
No, I just stopped smoking. It was really.
There you go.
It was pretty quick, and I haven't smoked since, and very glad of it, to be honest. But this is an interview with you, not me. What's wrong with me? But now, what are the things?
Yes, go.
No, you go.
Well, I have a neighbor on the same subject, and a neighbor across the street, whom I see when I walk my dogs in the evening walk. She's smoking. And obviously in New York we don't smoke in buildings, or there are some buildings that have signs, don't smoke in front of our buildings, Anyway, she's having her smoke, and I said to her, she made some comment. I said, you're obviously trying to quit, yes? She said, yes, I am. And I said, you know how to do it, don't you? She said, no, tell me, please. I said, you stop smoking. Oh, come on. I said, this is how you quit. You quit. She said, I know you're right.
It's awful, but it's what you have to do.
That you stop. That's it. That's how you do it. You stop. I know you're right. I said, I don't want to be right. I want you to stop smoking. But anyway, it's a good lesson. You want to do something badly enough. You do. I could
do it for somebody else. I probably never could have done it myself just for me.
Yeah, you're just looking for reasons. You're looking for excuses. You did it.
Yeah.
You did it. That's the point. Nobody did it for you.
No, they didn't.
You just need to be motivated, but you're the one who did it. And Jack did it, and this lady can do it. I'll get her. I'll keep working on her. She may have to move. But I do believe in that. I do believe that we are the control center of our lives is our attitude.
Yeah.
That's my mantra.
Attitude is everything.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we've done smoking. Now, move on to something. What?
Well, one of the things we talked about and hit about on the last interview was a question apparently you get asked a lot, is how on earth could Margaret Holohan have put up with Frank Burns for all of those years? And
well, it wasn't that many years. If you're an advocate, if you're a real M.A.S.H fan, then you know it did not last. I started complaining, and Frank, my dear Larry, we complained about the continuity. We were not a good match. We were funny. That's why the writers had trouble letting go of it. But in fact, Alan came over to me and said it's going to be a tough battle, because once writers get a hold of a team that works like you two, they're not going to let go. But we kept at them. They were writing Frank Burns as a silly, non-effective doctor.
Yeah.
And here's this head nurse who is total military, daughter of the general and a nurse mother, and he's married. There's no future. And he wasn't tall, dark, and handsome. He wasn't, tough. He wasn't in command. There was nothing to hold her there. And they were writing her with me that she was capable and bright and so forth. So I went to Gene Reynolds or Larry Gelbart was definitely on my side, but Gene kept saying, well, sweetheart, sweetness. He would call me your sweetness. It's episodic. And I said, no, Gene, listen to me carefully. I go out there, and the question I most asked is, why are you putting up with that imbecile? I said, people are involved with us. They think of us as real people, and we're playing real people. We're not caricatures. And we kept after it. We kept trying to be reasonable about it all. And we went through a lot of growing pains. I don't deny that. And but we got it, didn't we? We did. We got it.
Did that change happen after Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds left the show?
Oh, God, no. No, not at all. I was talking to Gelbart at the beginning of the first season. She was... he said to me, we're looking for her. I said, well, you got to let me look with you, because I can't do... I have to be playing a role model for young people out there, for young women who are being influenced. I am an influencer.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Television is like an octopus with all these arms reaching out and influencing young minds, young people, and in some cases adults who are learning a new thing, whatever. But the thing is, Larry and I were on the same page from day one, that we had to find who she was, and she was not some joke.
No.
Anyway, yes, we were a comedy, but look how serious we were about comedy. Look how serious we took.
I was about to say, that seemed like that was the direction the show took, from really being more comedy with drama into drama with comedy. And it got more and more that way.
It was a dramedy.
Dramedy, yeah.
Yeah.
And in that case,
I was told that M.A.S.H actually spawned that word.
I believe
drama.
it, yes.
I don't know. I'd like to believe it. I think that's really what we were. But we had no category. We were M.A.S.H.
No.
M.A.S.H became its own thing, Sometimes that happens.
And it rises up above the pack to this day.
So-and-so. Get me a Jimmy Stewart type. Well, Jimmy was not a type, but what they're saying is those attributes, those beautiful values, and his aura, his essence. Get me that, as close to that type in another human being, But it was to their credit. Each time we lost a member, they never tried to replace that let's say that cog in the wheel. That note in the orchestra. He brought in a whole new thought, a whole new thing. Winchester didn't replace anybody. He brought in this wonderful tuba, sound in this accent, this background, this wealth, and the thing and the stuff, and yet they gave him all that leverage to show his heart and his soul, and his love for music, and it's a whole different note to the cacophony of sound we were making. And the same thing with Wayne. Could not replace Wayne. And BJ was as far afield, I think, in a way. Wayne was mischievous and flirtatious, and he had that twinkle in his eye when he walked into the tent. You knew he was trouble. You knew it. And with BJ, and Mike Farrell actually wrote a lovely episode to explain his feelings about his wife and his marriage and his kids and how important they were to him, and yet had this lust crush on Susan St. James, who was this lovely, attractive the journalist who came through. And
Aggie O'Shea, I think it was.
Yeah, right. And she was very attracted to Mike. And at the same time, Mike had to say, it was such a pretty speech. He said to Hawkeye, I love my wife, my kids, my marriage. I love them. I'm so lucky to have them. And Hawkeye looks at him and says, yes, you are. You are. And it just was so human and wonderful, and it explored all the facets of a mensch, which Mike was, and Alan, and so we had our failings and our flaws, and that's what made us real. Because who out there is perfect, and perfect is boring. You can only you know me. Try to be the best you can. You don't go for perfect. That's some idealized dream. It doesn't exist. You go for the best you can do. Mm-hmm. And that's what these people always did. So in Mike's case, he was trying to be the best he could and fight the normal, natural, real lust and admiration he felt for this woman she was not a hoe. She was accomplished.
Yeah, accomplished journalist.
And intelligent, and she had her wonderful moments of telling him every time you talk about your marriage and how you feel and everything, it makes me love you more. Uh-huh. So his qualities did not defeat him, did not lose her. She just admired and loved him, and that's a gift. I mean, she gave that to him. He felt that as a person, that she understood she was not being rejected. She was being honored. He was saying, I think you're fabulous, and I can't do anything about it, And this was a lovely story. And of course, please, our writers. I worshipped our stable of writers. They would come up with ideas, and they would pair us together in the most unlikely fashion. One of my very favorite shows was Birthday Girls, and I'm out on the road in Korea with Jamie. Klinger is driving me to Kimpo. I want to get the hell out of Dodge because it's my birthday. I don't want to spend my birthday with these people who don't love and respect me. And I'm getting out of Dodge, and I've got this guy driving me to Kimpo. And all I do generally is yell at Klinger.
Yes.
And here I am in a broken-down Jeep at night with Klinger on my birthday. And I am desolate. I am miserable. I am hating him all the more. And he comes to me with a muffin and a candle.
Yeah, single candle, yeah.
Yeah, and this is this is humanity. It's irresistible, and and we see her vulnerability. She confesses, "I thought I would be so far ahead with my life, and look where I am. I'm nowhere. I'm with a broken down Jeep and a person I don't like, and it's my birthday. It's like so human and passionate and lovely, and the two of them together find this alliance, and it's and I always tell Jamie, you won me an Emmy for that show. And he laughs, yeah, you did, Jamie. How could I do that show without you? So I have. You have to always click off. You have to turn me off and say, okay, Loretta, that's enough. You stop talking now, and you take over. But when I get going on these people I worked with,
I'm loving it. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, well, I worked with a bunch of genius elements here. They were always trying to do better than they did 5 minutes ago. And this is a motivation. A direct quote, Harry Morgan, who's got to be the best, 110 great films and 9 television series, and he's a consummate actor, performer, and we're at the press conference right after they yell, cut print, and it's the end of the series. So we're being interviewed, all of us. We're on a dais, and there's this massive mob of press. So one of the interviewers says, Mr. Morgan, do you feel M.A.S.H made you a better actor? And he said, I don't know about that, but I'll tell you, it made me a better human being.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was one of the most delightful human beings I've ever met in my life. And yet he felt so influenced by the surroundings. Alan once said, in any show you do, you like kind of sit in a circle, run lines or whatever. And if you're on a break, whether they're lighting or whatever, or you're not in the next scene, you disperse, you go to your room, you put your feet up, you take a nap or whatever. We never did. We were always there together because we had so much fun together. And if 2 people out of the 6, let's say, are running lines, we were there to help. We were there to support. We were there, or to just be there to listen, to suggest maybe something. I don't know, but there was such a bond in this cast. It was, and I can't explain it except I call it magic.
Yeah.
But we were bonded from hello, and with every change that brought other things out from us, the characters, you don't have the same reaction to a new person. Even if they said the same line, you just react differently. A classic example is McLean Stevenson as compared to Harry. They're total different commanders, total different relationships we had with them. Potter became Houlihan's father figure, and she yelled at Henry, at Mac, every day. She was always going over his head, but so you have different demands because you have different people, and every time that happened, we grew, and there was just no stopping the growth, and that's why I think it's global. People are so attached to us. We were human, and we were growing, and they were growing with us. So many people will say to all of us, we all get this, I grew up with you. It's a classic quote. I grew up with you.
And we're still watching after all these years.
But of course, because you don't stop growing, and it's generational. Grandpa is saying, you got to watch this. Sit down, watch this with me, and has indoctrinated a child with M.A.S.H. from the get-go. He's 7 watching M.A.S.H. with Granddad, and it continues. Because why? Because it was honest, it was real.
It reached into our hearts. It was one thing you said last time we talked was that we stick with it because it's like a childhood friend you've had since kindergarten. Are you ever going to let that person go?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have a lot of the same memories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, yeah. But what it is living theater in a way. It's living because those people were all real. I mean, the mountain of mail that came to the producers when they decided to kill McClane's character. Mountains of mail, how dare you? Like he was a real person. You see, already we were never characters. We were people. And they had hissy fits. The whole world had a hissy fit. How dare you kill Henry? Not McClane, Henry.
Yeah, I remember because I thought that was a brilliant stroke of genius for them to do that at the time.
Yeah, it was, and again, to their credit, they decided to take advantage of the fact that Mac was leaving the show and would not be inclined to return. You know, he was going off on his own, and let's use it in a positive fashion. Not that it's positive, but use it to say something.
Uh-huh.
You know, and they tell me, Gene and Larry said the office answered every single piece of mail. And I'm talking about mountains. You know, I'm talking about a lot of mail. And they essentially, it was like, don't be mad at us. We're doing a show here. We're trying to say something. You're mad that you lost this wonderful human being to war? It's the war you're mad at.
War, yeah.
Take your anger, you know, and stop war. End war. Oh, I have a Yorkie who wants to. What do you want to do? You want to get down, or you want to? Okay, you want to get down. Okay, go. They are very entertaining.
Yes, they are. I've had a Yorkie for years. Well, not lately, but I love Yorkies.
Oh, God, they're funny. So I think that was, yes, brilliant. I think it was a brilliant way to use it, you know, to use our loss. We did. I was devastated when Mac told me he was leaving. How could you do that? Yeah, don't leave me. You know, Mac called me Ma. I think I told you that.
No, I don't think you did.
Yeah, he said, I've never met anyone so young, so maternal. He said, you like mother us. I said, because I'm the woman here. It's in my DNA, you know. So he called me Ma.
I was going to ask you, how do you feel your role influenced women in that time period?
Well, from all the feedback I get, I can be very proud.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many pieces of mail says I became a nurse because of you, and other mail which says, which reads like things like, you took me through some very hard times. I would come home, turn it on. You were my safe place to go. I grew up without 2 parents, and so you became my older sister. You became, yes, I mean, it was fabulous, because
there weren't many women authority figures back then besides you that I can think of.
No, there was nothing like her. Never, no. And there were no nurses portrayed like her either, and I hear that from all my nurses out there thanking me for portraying the nurse at the front that way, that tough, that, and finally, the writers and I were having so much fun with it. I picked up a glass of champagne and said, "Here's to me." Well, that is an enormous growth for Margaret, because she's battered in the beginning. She gets no respect. She gets no this, no that. And okay, you can put her up here. And it's not a happy thing. And her growth gets her to a place where she actually appreciates herself and sees what she's doing. And then of course it culminates with that wonderful Nurses episode where she reveals how lonely it is at the top.
We talked about that glancingly last time when I reminded you of a time where I saw this special on M.A.S.H where you demonstrated how you switched over from being Loretta Swit into Margaret Houlihan.
Oh, yeah.
And in a split second, you could see the transformation. It was, wow, two different people in the same body. And that was that episode.
I had a lot of remarkable teachers, and I love what I do and what I'm able to do. I love reaching out to people with that kind of material and touching their heart and soul. I think that's an honorable, wonderful way to live, and to use a God-given thing. I certainly didn't. I think talent is a gift.
Yeah.
I am also a watercolorist.
I was about to say, if we don't upset your publicist, we need to talk about Sweetheart and your watercolors and animals and all that activism.
Well, the thing is, I've never studied art, but you look at that book and you say, wait a minute, you must have somewhere along the way. I think there are times I back off from a painting and I look at it and I go, thank you, God, or whatever silliness. But I do believe, again, our control center is our attitude. And if I'm willing to believe that I can do this, I do it. It's like giving up smoking. I do believe we're strong enough to be in control. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying we're strong enough to do it. And I think we can. And a lot of us do. We do. I've seen it. So I loved that about Margaret, that she got to that point where she
here's to me.
Was her own. She was her own person. And I think we discussed briefly, the only thing I disagreed with, the only thing over 11 years, but in the end, I would have loved for them to say, on to the next war, as opposed to going back home and working in a hospital. I saw her, she was a 30-year man. That's who she was. And I would have preferred sticking with that, and saying to the group, I'm off to a place called Vietnam, and leave it at that. I'm a 30-year man. And say that, in fact, you know me. I belong at the front. This is who I am. I'm a general's daughter, and I always will be. And
I don't think in '53 there was much of us in NAM yet, was there?
Say again?
I said back in '53, I don't think there was much of us in NAM yet, was there? Ike was still president. It was Kennedy really got us into NAM.
Right. Well, I wouldn't necessarily have to say that. I'm saying that if there's always a war.
Oh my!
There's always a war somewhere.
That's true.
Peace talks in Korea continue.
Yeah.
There's never been a calculated, decided, definite peace agreement.
Yeah, that's
a lot
true.
of people don't know that. We still have troops there.
Yeah.
And hello.
Demilitarized zone, the whole 9 yards.
There's always a war She could have just simply said,
On to the next battle line.
I'm a 30-year man. I'm off to the next war. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And
she was a lot like her daddy in that way, I think.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh, yes.
Well, I think it's time that we dived into Sweetheart a bit and tell the folks what's there, the art and the activism and the animals and anything you want to share about it.
I've always been into animal rescue and placement and saving and so forth. And I've always been doing that. I did, though, eventually form a charity called Sweetheart Animal Alliance, and the alliance is the operative word because it enables me to work with all my alliances, which go to Israel, Hawaii. I mean, everybody that I'm connected with. The guide dogs of Israel, for example, their representatives met me for lunch one day, and I did a painting. I sold it. So I'm helping them in that way, and now we've got my books, and we have my paintings, and so we're going to do another fundraiser. These people are incredible. They rescue these little puppies that grow into guide dogs. They train them, and then listen to the words. They give them to people who are losing their sight. They give them. So it's like, how are you maintaining yourself? I got to help. I've got to help. So we do. So we're now connected in a big, wonderful way. We have acquired a beautiful supporter, and she wants to give 2 big parties. And I've done some paintings, and we're going to auction them off and do prints, give prints out, for small donations or whatever. So that's a project in the works. There's a project in the works in Kauai. Kauai Humane Society has also joined Sweethearts, and so we're going to have a fundraiser this year. They love their birds. If you've ever been to Kauai, there are birds everywhere, all kinds of birds. So the more birds I paint, the more paintings we sell, and we raise funds for our Humane Society. So I can go on and on, but so that's what the charity does. You have a good year, you take the dough in the Treasury, and you send it out to MSPCA. MSPCA has Angel Hospital, one of the best vet hospitals. 2 of my babies came from the MSPCA. They do wonderful work. They take my 2 babies are, Yorkies. Well, you say, how did you rescue a Yorkie? They're in demand, and they're
big demand. They're expensive.
Yeah, no. These people turned these dogs in because they could not afford the medical, and so MSPCA calls me. I can afford it. I'm taking those 2 kids now. We get in the car, we drive 7 hours or whatever it took to Boston, and we grab those 2 little kids and bring them home, and we
lucky
get
puppies,
surgery and therapies and so forth and so on. And that's part of what we do. It encompasses everything that's needed to give more love and care to the animals in our planet. The military dogs, I'm very involved with bringing military dogs back from Afghanistan after they've served 4 tours of duty. Hey, let's bring them back, okay?
Yeah.
But when they come back, they need to go through a cycle of repair. They come back with PTSD. People don't realize they go through the same horrific experience. So they need to be recycled. But we can do that, when we know that that's what we need to do. So we do that. And then they come out wonderful companion dogs for our vets. Our vets who need
them, yeah, and the companions need companions.
Yeah, so it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Everybody pitching into every phase of what that involves. And
tell people how they can connect with you on these projects. Where do they go?
Oh, I'm all over the internet. You just Google. So, yeah, you cannot miss me. It's like boring. She's everywhere. My website, of course, is sweethearts.org.
Yep, that's the one I was thinking of.
You can buy the books. You can buy paintings. I've got perfume.
I was waiting for that.
I've started a jewelry collection, which is available. There's a beautiful chain in Florida. They bought them out and they want to sell them. They're hearts. Everything is heart related, just the way our lives are heart related. I mean, without our hearts, we stop beating. We don't go on. So everything in Swit Heart is heart related, and these beautiful heart necklaces are made from my birthstone. I keep bringing it back to me because it's all about me in this war against cruelty. So they're topaz, which is my birthstone, and they're carved into hearts, and they make a beautiful necklace. And you can color stones. You can get a pink diamond. You can get a green diamond, whatever. So we make our topaz in emeralds, rubies, and diamonds, and they're just really beautiful. I'm very proud of the workmanship. And so, I run out of time talking about the project, and the house is now totally overwhelmed with projects. I finally cleared out everything in the living room so that it became a place where friends could come and sit by the fire and we could talk. But the projects just were like leaking out of the room. So
no grass growing under your feet at all.
Say again?
No grass is growing under your feet at all.
No. I guess not. But it's a great life. I love the people I work with are the best. Caring, loving, giving. It doesn't get better than that to work with people like my dear Betty White or Joanne Worley. About these people who never. Lily Tomlin is. I mean, there are so many people that I'm close to, and they're the best kind of people who care and work and
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you save stories them for doing another time, because we're about out of time here.
Well, that's wonderful. It was a wonderful visit.
Yes, it was.
Of giving an interview, and those are the best kinds, when you just keep yakking away and talking.
Because you're saying, exactly what people want to hear. That's wonderful. That's very, very positive, very, very uplifting and inspirational, I think.
Hi, I'm Jamie Farr, and you're listening to Flashback.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting special episode of Flashback. And I couldn't possibly be more excited because my guest today or tonight is Jamie Farr. Yep, Maxwell Q. Klinger from M.A.S.H. Actually, I met Jamie last October. It was the 50th anniversary of the debut of M.A.S.H. And Jamie, Loretta Swit, and 100 or so, their closest strangers, all had dinner together that night to celebrate the auspicious occasion. And that's when I talked to Jamie about appearing on this little radio show. But he had a number of problems over this past year. That was my first question, Jamie. How has the weather been treating you out there this year?
I don't know whether it's you, Wes, or it's me, but it's terrible this morning or this evening, if that's when you're broadcasting this. But I got to tell you, the rain, the wind, and it's just been horrendous. And especially for people up north in California, the snow and all of the electricity has been out. And this certainly isn't sunny California, and we haven't gotten to the April showers yet.
Has it hit your house personally, or are you away from all that?
It was hitting it all last night, and it's hitting it right now, and the rain is coming down.
Well, no wonder it's been so hard to get you on this little show.
Well, it is. I have to tell you, there's been a lot of outages. I was afraid that that might have happened with our computer and with any kind of energy that we have going out to doing any broadcasting. I know we're having a problem with our television reception here. I live in a canyon, and boy, I tell you, the weather is just horrendous here. We're in fire and flood hazards and everything else.
From drought to flood and everything in between.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, wow. Well, all righty. Well, I guess I'll start asking the expected questions. And the first expected question is, what does the Q stand for in Maxwell Q Klinger?
You know what? That's been asked many, many times, and
sure.
I have absolutely no idea other than say it's questionable. Q for questionable, because I have no idea what the Q. I think they just gave that to him to make him sound important. But I will tell you how the name Klinger came about.
All right.
And I will also tell you how my part came about.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'd be happy to tell you. It's an interesting story. First of all, Larry Gelbart, who created my character and who helped develop the series M.A.S.H for television, was a student at Fairfax High School here in the Los Angeles area. And his dad, Harry Gelbart, was a barber to all the comedians in Beverly Hills. They had actually moved, Larry and Harry and his family had moved from Chicago to Los Angeles, and Harry was the barber to all the comedians: Sid Caesar, Milton Berle, Jack Benny, George Burns, Danny Thomas. And Harry would tell everybody about his son at Fairfax High School who wanted to be a comedy writer. And he says he writes these greatest jokes and so forth. No one paid any attention to him except Danny Thomas. And Danny Thomas was from Toledo, Ohio, and he was Lebanese. And Danny Thomas liked the jokes, and he bought Larry Gelbart's first jokes. So there's a payback that Larry Gelbart later on, of course, who did a lot of different movies and TV shows. He wrote for Sid Caesar along with Doc Simon and everybody else. And of course, the movie Tootsie and plays like Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And I'm trying to think of some of the other shows that City of Angels, I think, was another one that he did. So what he did is he named Klinger, which was his childhood friend in Chicago, after I was named after him. And then he made me, of course, which I am anyway, Lebanese and from Toledo, Ohio, as a payback to Danny Thomas. So that's how Maxwell Q Klinger got put together.
And for you, Toledo is where the character meets the actor, because your affection for Toledo goes all the way back to birth, right?
Oh, yes. You know, I love movies. I'm sure most people that you talk to that get into this business love movies and radio. This is long before television came around, and I used to listen to all the radio shows, the comedy shows, and the game shows, and that. And I used to go. There was a little neighborhood theater called the Mystic Theater, and you know, for 10 cents, you go in there and see a movie. 5 cents, you get popcorn, and it was adjacent to a fire station. And all the firemen used to get in free, and they'd have a fire siren in the theater in case there was a fire. The firemen were in there. They know that the bell was ringing, that they had to go next door to get into their fire engines to go put out the fire. There was a little drugstore across the street from that theater called Hamp's Drugstore, and I used to go in there and buy all the magazines, the radio magazines, where they showed you the pictures of the people who were on radio, and also Theater Arts. Theater Arts was a magazine that came out once a month that showed that had the plays that were on in New York and had advertisements in there and stories in it. And in the back of the magazine, Theater Arts, was an ad for the Pasadena Playhouse in Pasadena, California. And I thought, boy, that sounds exciting. Maybe I could be accepted there. So I wrote them, and I was a senior in high school at the time, and they were accepting me. However, the tuition was $600. And my family didn't have that kind of money, but we had purchased a lot of war savings stamps, and I had a lot of the war bonds that when they were 1875, but if you kept them for a while, you got $20, $25 for it. And I just happened to have enough of those bonds for $600. So that's what I used to pay for my tuition to the Pasadena Playhouse. Got on a train downtown Toledo, took me to Chicago. Chicago took me to Pasadena. And the nice thing about it is that I had a sister 10 years older than me who had moved to California, was married, and was living there. So I had a connection there. And I got to the Pasadena Playhouse. I don't know if you've ever, are you familiar with the name the Pasadena Playhouse? Because a lot of
no, I'd name Pasadena, but not the Playhouse. No.
Yeah, well, a lot of famous actors and actresses came from there, and that's what intrigued me. So I happened to go there, and there's a patio that they have in the front. And they also have a main stage and little stages along the way that for theater that the students would play in. And the fountain was there with all of these beautiful women and handsome men. And here's this kid from the north end of Toledo with a big nose, dark hair, and a really not very much talent. I'm saying, what in the world am I doing here? At any rate, that was my first experience with it, and I had all of a wonderful time at the Playhouse. They taught you how to speak. Of course, if you had an accent from New York or a Southern accent, they wanted to make sure that you just had an accent that was for everybody. So you had speech therapy. We had dance. We had to take ballet and tap dance. At any rate, what happened was that I got involved with a lot of the different shows that they were doing. And one of the first shows that they had us do an exercise of was Mr. Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that. And ironically enough, toward the end of the first year, I had run out of money, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to return the second year because I just didn't have the money. I used to work on weekends to make money for food and pay for my dormitory there at a Army Navy store in Hollywood. And I'd have to take a bus from Pasadena to Eagle Rock, and then Eagle Rock to Los Angeles. And I'd sleep over at my sister and my brother-in-law's house. They didn't have an extra bed, but they did have a cot. So I'd work there. I'd work on Saturdays and Sundays. Sunday night, I'd go back to the Playhouse and then start all over on Monday to school. Well, one of the last things that we did at my first year at the Playhouse was I was helping a main stage production, which is an Actors Equity production of Mr. Roberts. And it was Harry Burnson, Corbin Burnson's dad, that was producing it. And I was making the soap suds for Ensign Pulver. And also I had a small role as the shore patrolman that brings the guys back from their furlough shore leave that they had. They're all drunk, and I had the goat with me. And at any rate, I just had a couple of lines in it. Well, I told Harry, the producer, I said, I won't be able to be coming back to the Playhouse. I don't have the money. And he said, hey, Jamie, we're going to take this show to a theater in Hollywood, the Las Palmas Theater. And he says, I'll get you your Actors Equity card. And what I'll do is I'll pay you $50 a week. And you'll get your card, and you'll make the soap suds again for Pulver. And then also what you'll do is you'll have the same role as a shore patrolman. Well, I thought that was fantastic. And indeed we did. And I was there for a whole year. And one of the stars that played Mr. Roberts was the actor Craig Stevens. Do you remember him at all,
Yeah,
Wes?
I do, actually. Yes, I do.
Yeah, Peter Gunn,
guy.
of course. Well, at any rate, I did that show. I became good friends with Craig. And then Harry did another show called Stalag 17. And he got Harvey Lembeck, who played Insignia in it on Broadway, to direct it. And I was in that with John Banner and Dennis Weaver. That's long before Gunsmoke and long before Hogan's Heroes for John Banner. At any rate, I had my Actors Equity card, and I wound up, when that show closed, by getting a main stage production equity at the Pasadena Playhouse. in one of Mary Chase's plays. I had done Mrs. McThing, and then I came back and did Bernadine on stage with John Lupton. And what happened was there was a talent scout from MGM who saw me, and he said, "Hey, we're doing a movie at MGM called Blackboard Jungle, and you might be right for it. We want you to come and screen test." So I didn't have an agent or anything like that. And I went and I went and I screen tested for it. And lo and behold, I tested with James Drury, not Glenn Ford, who was the star of the film. But as you know, James Drury later became the Virginian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at any rate, I got the part. But I didn't have an agent. And a buddy of mine who had been in Stalag 17 with me said, "Hey, I'll get my agent for you. Let him negotiate the deal and then get you your billing and everything." And so that was my very first movie. That was in 1954. I had graduated in 1952, a kid of 18 years old in Toledo. I used to go to the Lowe's Valentine there to watch an MGM movie. And 2 years later, I'm on the MGM lot making an MGM movie, which was brought Rock Around the Clock, Bill Haley and the Comets to fame. And that was my very first SAG card that I got. I had my Actors Equity card, and I had my SAG card at that time.
Well, I do have one more Toledo question before we dive into Hollywood. Were those hot dogs you mentioned so many times on the show for real?
Yes, yes, they are. As a matter of fact, I've been doing cameos, and a lot of people said they went and visited Toledo and gone to Tony Packo's. Tony Packo's at that time was was a beer joint. So when we were kids, we couldn't go in to get hot dogs. We used to send the oldest kid in, and the oldest kid would buy the hot dogs. I think they were 35 cents at that time, and then bring the hot dogs out, and we used to eat them in the parking lot outside of Packo's. But now it's a family restaurant, and Tony passed away. It was family owned, and I think some kind of corporation purchased it now, so it's not family owned as it was. But they opened a couple of other stores. They opened one across from the Fifth Third Field, which is where the Toledo Mud Hens play, and then another one in Sylvania, Ohio, and then the famous one, the first one was on Front Street on the east side of Toledo.
Well, Toledo seems to be pretty proud of you. Didn't they dedicate a park in your name?
They did indeed, and it was a park that I used to go to when I was a little boy. We'd get our scooters and wagons, and we'd go to. It was Riverside Park. It was right by the Maumee River there, and I got a spanking from my mother because I didn't tell her where I had gone, and she was very upset. And the irony of the story is that my mother had passed away before they had named that park after me, because I was going to tell her, "Hey, I got a spanking for going to my own park."
Stay tuned to the concluding part of Jamie Farr's interview, which will be on next week. Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Don't forget that all past shows are archived on the Artist First Radio Network. And join us next week for another exciting episode of Flashback.